All right. Good morning. Welcome back here to Trader Minute. Great to have you aboard. I'm jumping on just a little bit early here, and not going to get to it here for about another minute and a half. Just testing some of the audio here, so waiting for a thumbs up. In regards to that. So bear with us for just a few minutes. I hope you had a fantastic weekend. And market's off to a very interesting start this morning, so it'll be a good time to kind of look through that here and kind of show what's kind of going on here with that, and some of the ways to react and some of the ways to deal with this type of market, because it's not the first time. And we talked Friday, we're talking about bearish market vibe and everything, so we'll take a look at kind of the way to approach it here. And it looks like I am getting the thumbs up. All right, fantastic. All right, fantastic. All right, let's start out here. Here is a site, and I can put this link into the chat a little bit later here today. But basically is not real time, but a close to real time look at what's going on from a coronavirus standpoint, in terms of confirmed cases, deaths, where it's happening, the different countries and regions. And it's a pretty cool, you can scroll in, scroll out type map and everything else here for it. You can see the French confirmed case here today. But you can see how it's kind of going through China and, what's kind of going on there. And then you don't have to go too far into the news to kind of understand that, China's trying to quarantine some very major cities, and, some cities that are just absolutely ginormous, absolute logistical nightmare here. And it's just one of those where, things are still playing out. There's some issues here with the virus as far as, some incubation periods and everything else there. But if you want to kind of track real time, kind of what's going on, or as close to real time as possible, there's a pretty good link here for it, and I will add that into chat. Now, as far as the market goes, all right, let's start off with the challenge. Challenge went into today with cash, and we had Netflix on Friday, pulled it Friday morning. Ultimately it sold off and rallied back a little bit. End of the day up like $3 or something, gapping down here today. Man, it's we'll talk about it in a little bit. It's very tempting to want to go and be a buyer of, but that left us in all cash. As far as crossovers go, we have a lot of crossovers on the board: American Airlines, Apple, Chipotle, EWW, EWZ, JD, Juniper, Microsoft, Micron, Starbucks. You'll notice a lot of these stocks on this list are stocks that haven't had downside crossovers for a while. Apple, Microsoft, been a long time since they had downside crossovers here on them. Even JD, Starbucks. Now, none of these are confirmed signals here this morning. If we look at something like a Starbucks, you can see the move. And one of the things about a lot of the big gap moves here today is if you look at the average true range, it's moving more than two average true ranges on this gap. And, we're not going to get a signal with a two average true range move. It's not because, the chances aren't good that it goes down. It's just not option playable typically when you get that type of move. The option risk is incredibly high with it. And so, that's one of the reasons we've put that parameter in. But in the case of Starbucks, coming off a new short-term high, not going to give us a signal, and not something that I'll be able to trade here just yet. Things like Microsoft, same dealio here with that. And so, an Apple, I'm not going to get a bearish signal on it, but with the crossover, it does bring in that now potential of an upside signal going forward. It's not going to happen today. It's not going to happen tomorrow. Probably not going to happen this week, but it does kind of put that closer into the into the trading range there. American Airlines is one I was kind of hoping would trigger on Friday. Ultimately, we didn't get the crossover, but gapping on down here, we're talking about more than a 2 average true range move. Much more than an average 2 average true range move. To make that signal there. So I'll be patient. We'll see kind of how things play out. As we go into this afternoon. With the market, there's still a lot to go. You can see there are no upside crossovers on the list, so nothing in that, nothing in that basket right here. All right, so going to continue to run with the challenging cash here, at least this morning, and see kind of what shapes up here this afternoon. I do suspect that we may have a period of light signals for a day or two. We've had good signals coming in, and one of those where, because most stocks are coming off of new highs, are we going to get a lot of bearish signals? Probably not. We did see one at Twitter on Friday, but with earnings here tomorrow, a little tough to play. But normally after we get this type of a shakeout here, we start to see, another good round of signals come in. So I will expect that. But we'll see. Hopefully we get one or two here to play, through this element. But we'll see kind of how they play out. Now, with the market going like this, it's one where I've been around the market enough, been around other traders enough that I kind of understand what goes through their minds when this type of market happens, when it hits. And, want to kind of go out and take a look at some of the, natural trader reactions, and then show you a little bit of my shopping list of what I'm looking for here. I want to talk about perspective, right? Perspective is a huge thing when it comes to the market, and the market has a really good way, or bad way, depending on how you look at it, of taking traders' perspective and just shredding it. Just absolutely shredding it. And what do I mean by that? Well, we get on a day like today. And traders tend to approach days like today with three reactions, right? One is to run. Say, yep, you know what? Market's crazy. I don't know what's going on. It's just a mess. I'm going to just run. You know what? I'm just going to kind of bury my head in the sand, not watch it too much, and go. I'll admit, I go through periods like that, right? Everyone does. It's natural, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that could save a lot of money, right? This isn't something I'm saying is an incorrect thing, right? But it is one of the natural reactions, is to run. The other natural reaction is to regret. Oh, man. Why didn't I do this Friday? Why didn't I do this Thursday? With some unrealistic expectation of themselves that they should have known exactly what was going to happen today, on Friday. And you know what? Now they regret that they didn't make certain moves because, man, if they had those perfect rosy hindsight glasses, which they have today, you know what? They'd be, raking it in this morning. So traders will put themselves into this regret cycle, which then leads to the other reaction, which is to rush. They run, regret, or rush. And what do I mean by rush? Well, they go out and they take a stock like Netflix this morning, right? And they're like, okay, market's going down, market's dropping. All right, you know what? I'm going to buy this dip. I'm going to buy this dip, and they're watching their watch list, and you know what they see? They see Netflix surge in the first 5 minutes, and it almost goes green. And they're looking at it, and they pull the trigger. They say, yeah, I'm just going to buy it. I got to buy it. I got to get in on this and, be involved. And they go and buy it, and oops. Right? They rush into decisions. They rush into, making decisions based on things that aren't very rational. right? Like, oh, how did the stock do in the first 5 minutes, or is it outperforming over the first hour? They start to put different types of criteria into trades that really aren't logical, valid, or have nothing to do with their own trading system, right? And they end up getting burned. And so these three things, the run, regret, and rush, they're three things that traders have to fight in order to gain perspective here. For me, this morning's pretty easy. I've talked from a trade standpoint, from an investment standpoint. From an investment standpoint, I'm looking for a pullback to get involved in, right? What does that mean? It means that a Monday morning 50-point gap lower, I can be very patient. I don't have to sit there and go, oh, well, do I sell stuff? Do I buy stuff? What do I do, right? From an option standpoint for the challenge, I'm not in any positions. I'm waiting for the next signal. I know my strategy. I don't have to worry about anything. I can just wait. Okay, signal comes in, go. Oh, no signal. All right, I'll wait. And keeps it very simple and very easy. So on a morning like this, for me, it's about my shopping list, right? I don't have to worry about running. I don't have to, regret anything, and I don't have to rush, right? And so I can keep the proper perspective here. And so what is the proper perspective? Well, there are a couple things to keep in mind. And the two things that I showed Friday, I'm going to show again. First thing to keep in perspective is the fact that what is the sentiments? What are the market sentiments out there? They are incredibly bullish, right? When market sentiments are overly bullish, what tends to happen? Well, when there is a pullback, those sentiments have to change. Why? Because people who are overly bullish, they're not bullish because they're not in. They're bullish because they're in, right? They're in. They're on the upside. They're bullish because of it, and they say, "All right, you know what? Things are going up, and they're in." And what has to happen? Well, things have to switch. Things have to switch for them to become bearish, which means they have to sell out, right? When people go to cash, that's when they turn bearish because they want things to get cheaper, right? I want things to get cheaper. I mean cash, so I'm going to be bearish, go down, go, or they go into neutral. Right now, we have a lot on the bullish side, and it's one where how does that switch? Well, it switches with selling, right? Have we seen selling? No, we haven't seen selling. We saw a gap, right? The market gap down. In fact, there's been more buying today than selling when it comes to just the overall market. Yeah, we saw some selling Friday, sure. But most of this is not selling. This is a gap. This is a gap that is changing valuations overnight. It's not sell pressure that has come in, and all of a sudden now the sellers have overwhelmed Disney and dropped it $3. No, it's not been sold that much here today. There have been buyers for the sellers. We haven't seen this strong sell element come into play. And so, yes, there's going to be a switch in the sentiments. They'll obviously start to switch here. But we haven't seen severe sell pressure, come in right now. We had more sell pressure on Friday than what we have seen so far here today. And so what do I know? I know that we tend to see some of that sell pressure come in. And so am I going to be in a rush to buy things? No, I'm not. I absolutely am not. Am I going to be in a rush to go short things from an option standpoint? No, not really. But I do keep my eye on a few things. Some things I find interesting, but I have to understand something. I have to keep this perspective that my options are very expensive, right? What happened to the volatility index this morning? The VIX? Rocket ship, right? So what do I know when the VIX is up here? I know options are significantly more expensive. So I better have a setup that's picture perfect and go. For me, what would I like to see to, go buy some puts on some things? Well, I would like to see the market rally a little bit and see some topping volume. Give me a 20K topping volume here on S&P futures, and Okay, now I'm interested, right? Now I'm interested. Not interested in overpaying for options on a gap down when we're not seeing tremendous sell pressure come in, right? So that's what I'm looking for. We don't have it, so all right, I'm patient, right? I'll wait and go from there. And I go to my second thing, right? From an investment standpoint, I have a shopping list. I want to be a buyer of some things. And I think we can look at this from a trade standpoint and from an investor standpoint. And I'll go through 10 stocks that I want to purchase and just kind of give what the thought process is here this morning, keeping this perspective. We're not in a run position, we're not in a regret position, and we're not in a rush position, and we know what the market is. Number one, we have the sentiments. Number two, we have the market vibe that's bearish, right? So we have those two things that have changed, and so I know that, hey, you know what? First dip, is that something I really want to be a buyer of? Probably not, right? The odds aren't super in my favor. Yeah, this market has been incredible in terms of the buy pressure, so, we could see that, right now is the bottom and it never goes any lower, but that wouldn't be the norm. Right? That wouldn't be the norm given what the sentiments are and given what the market vibe is. So, I can be patient. So let me go to some of my stocks. Let's go to one that I really want to be a buyer of is Amazon. I'm very bullish Amazon. In fact, I think Amazon is set for a very good year. I think Amazon has the potential to be one of the top performing stocks this year. And if we look at the multi-year consolidation, right, we're now almost a 2-year consolidation here for Amazon. And we saw Amazon go down last earnings. Why? Because they spent too much money. But when they spend money, several quarters later, they tend to really show the profits from that, right? Now, that's several quarters. So going into this quarter, I'm still a little nervous when it comes to Amazon. So I need to have a picture-perfect buy point. Well, Amazon's breaking below the 7-week moving average. Is that typically my buy point from an investor standpoint? No, not at all. Right? Not at all. So it's pulling on back, but from an investor standpoint, I'm not very interested here, right now. I know it's at the 200-day moving average, whoop-de-doo. But it's just, okay. Nothing too interesting. From a trade standpoint, if I'm feeling really aggressive, I buy it with a stop on today's low, right? And in fact, for a lot of things out there, you're feeling like, man, I got to go buy some calls. You got some of that rush in you. You got some of that, man, I don't want to miss this if it goes. Today's lows set up a good stop. So you have a decent risk-reward area. That said, you don't have a decent option values. And in fact, if something like Amazon were to rally $10, depending on the option you choose, you may not see any gain in it, right? So you do have to keep that in mind on the call side. So for Amazon, for me, yep, on my shopping list, one of my favorites on my shopping list, but okay, nothing for me to really do with it. Another one's Boeing. Talked about Boeing last week. We talked about Boeing and possible bad news bottom here on it. Right? And last week, was kind to me. I had some weekly call options that I had talked about. Great. They were kind and, took them and moved on. I have a little bit of stock, but I want more. Is today an opportunity to jump in, to add some? For me, Boeing's near the top of my list. I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but looking to add some more. Why? Well, nothing's changed with Boeing, right? Today doesn't change anything for Boeing. Boeing isn't going to rise and fall on the coronavirus. Yes, is it going to weaken if the market goes down? Yeah, probably. But my bad news bottom thesis is still well in play, and in fact have a little bit of a cheaper area. So, it's something where I may add 25% to my position here today using what we have going on out there. And it's something where instead of adding shares, I'm going to look at selling puts. Why? Well, what's happened to the implied volatilities today? The implied volatilities have jumped. Right? So I can come down here, sell some puts, in the 310 area, even here at 320, right? And instead of paying $319.20 for the stock, Well, I sell the 320s, I'm paying 312, right? I'm paying 312 for them. They get put to me, great. I want the shares anyway, but I could pick them up for $8 cheaper today because of the implied volatility bump that's out there. Right? So Boeing on the top of my list as far as, hey, you know what? This is something I think I'd like to grab here today. Am I pulling the trigger on it now? No, I'm not. I'm giving it a little bit of time, just because I do think there's some, because of this, what we talked about with the market vibe and the sentiments, I think there's a good chance we see another kind of heavy sell push, at some point today in the market. Netflix, one of my favorite stocks out there. We've talked about it over and over as far as what I think this year for Netflix. We traded it for the challenge. Great, fine. That trade's done and over. But, I'd like to pick up some long-term Netflix. I wouldn't even mind picking up some short-term Netflix. But is there anything here that gives me something different? No. No, it doesn't. It is something where, we saw a big upsurge. And, the stock's kind of just sitting where it was ahead of earnings now, right? Is it going to ebb and flow with the market? It is, but I don't have a good risk-reward scenario. I don't have what I deem as a discounted price for it like I have with Boeing. And so with Netflix, I'm just, next, right? I'll wait. Next. Then there's Wynn Resorts. Now, when we had the coronavirus last week, we talked about Wynn Resorts, Vegas Sands, and those that, these things, if it gets worse, they're in trouble. These are going to get sold off hard. Wynn, Vegas Sands, MGM, we've seen similar action in all of them. We've seen a stock go from 154 to 124, and that's not unusual for Wynn. Right? Wynn makes big moves. That's just the nature of the stock. If I clean up this chart and we take a look at it, you can see these moves. Here in May, went from 146 down to 102. Right? I mean, that's what, 30% drop, and then a 30% pop. It makes moves fast. This is very normal for Wynn Resorts. So we've seen a big move to the downside. It's just an opportunity to pick some up. Well, it may be, right? It may be. But for something like this, what do I want to see? I want to see it close above the high from the prior day, which means today I'm not going to get a buy opportunity. Could I buy it using today's low as a stop point? I could. I could. But I'm going to wait. When I see it break above the high from the prior day, then I'm going to go get in. And will that mean that I'm probably chasing it a little bit? Sure. But for Wynn, the chasing tends to pay. So I'm not too concerned about that. But, as far as today, nothing. JP Morgan. Here's a stock. Good earnings, right? We talked about the earnings. The comparables are going to be a little tougher, but they still have the buyback. We talked about that if there is a pullback, that we may see even JP Morgan stop buying their shares for a short period of time so that they can buy them back cheaper going forward. So it's something I want my eye on, something I want to be involved in. But we've just started a pullback, right? We've really just started a pullback. There's nothing where I go, wow, this is, super discounted. It's not oversold or anything like that. It's pulled back for a couple days. Okay. I could buy some call options off of, today's low. But, let's face it. I'm going to need a big move for those to pay off given what the implied volatility is. So I'm not all that interested here just yet. Right? And the same goes for Bank of America. To me, kind of the same thing. All right, great. They're finally getting a pullback. What's the typical pullback for these banks? 2 to 3 weeks. All right, we've been in about a week and a half pullback. So I do need to give it just a little bit more time. So nothing too, compelling there. IBM. Love the IBM earnings. Very bullish IBM. But IBM has had an issue, right? What's its issue? Well, you know what? The coronavirus came in and is starting to push the stock down, right? Not dropping in a too dramatic of a fashion, but for me, this is similar to Wynn Resorts. All right, I'll look at buying it when it closes above the high from the prior day. Not going to happen today. You know what? We could see it move above 140 tomorrow, and that would give me a nice little buy signal. But until we see that, I'm not all that interested. Disney, same thing. Just, exact same thing, as Wynn Resorts. So I look at it today and I go, not very interested. What about Starbucks? Starbucks, where's their big, where's going to be one of their big growth engines? Well, it's going to be in China. So, it's caught right in the middle of this, of this coronavirus. So not something I'm really interested in touching here just yet. I need to give it some time to stabilize, right? How often do our bottoms, do bottoms happen on this type of action? Well, very rarely. Very rarely do we see this type of gap down and, it's on now a bottom, right? In fact, we saw this with FXI the other day. We saw the big gap down. Was that the bottom? No, right? It rallied, yes, it popped the next day, but that's not the bottom, right? There's more to come. There tends to be a lot more to come, and I do expect that would be the case for, Starbucks. Chipotle. Chipotle doesn't have a China exposure. Chipotle, talk about a stock that has very little to do with any of the coronavirus that's going on here with it. Pulling back a little today, holding on pretty well. For me, this is an interesting opportunity, right? If I want to buy a pullback, right? If I want to look to step into a pullback, Chipotle makes a lot of sense. Now, they have earnings next week at this time, right? So I do have to keep that in mind. The options just are not going to be very good. Do I want to buy it ahead of earnings and all of that? And for me, I have with Chipotle what I want, ahead of earnings already. So not really looking to add. And then last but not least on my watch list of 10 here is Alibaba, right? Here's Alibaba. Great. Finally selling off, right? Finally selling off. The stupid thing has just been parabolic. And nice to see a sell off here. I'm not bearish on Alibaba, right? If and when the whole coronavirus stuff subsides, where are people going to go? They're going to go, all right, everything's okay. Is it going to impact Baba's earnings? Yeah, it is. It's going to impact Baba's earnings, right? Why? Because of, just the change in behavior of people that happen around, this contagion like this. And that's one of the concerns the market has is, it's not like everybody in the world's going to die and all of that, and that's not what the market's pricing in. The market has to start pricing in that some of these companies are going to have a little bit lower revenue, lower earnings this quarter. But is it beyond this quarter? No, it's not, right? At least so far, it's not. So I can look at these pullbacks as opportunities, but they're nothing I'm looking to rush into, right here and right now. Boeing is my number one temptation, right? But again, I'm not pulling the string right here, right now, because, the market still has some further drops to go, here in it. And, we really haven't seen, sell pressure come into any real degree, so far today. The last stock I'll show here this morning is Walmart. Walmart has had a bad, rough go here of late. What have we seen on Walmart this morning? We've seen a lot of buy pressure come in. Right? We talk about buy or sell pressure. A lot of stocks are pretty neutral today. It's been all buy pressure for Walmart. It has been all buy pressure. Yes, it gapped down. Great. That's product of futures overnight. That's not, something Walmart related. But it is seen all buy pressure so far. We have not seen this type of price action in Walmart, really for a long time. We have to go back to middle of last year to see this type of price action for Walmart. I'm not buying it yet because a lot of times we'll see some of these early buy pressures get sold later in the day. But, what does it tell me? It tells me, bottom is close here for Walmart and something where, I'm bullish. I think it goes back to 120 where I can start to look to step in here sooner than later. All right. So anyway, that's kind of the way I'm looking at a few things here. On my own personal shopping list. Hopefully, the 3Rs kind of help with some perspective here. With this market, and I will get the link for the kind of semi-real-time coronavirus stuff up there on chat here in just a little bit. Thanks for hopping on. Have yourselves a fantastic day, and we will talk to you this afternoon. Take care.